What's up, St. Louis? What's up, football fans? And what's up, say, soccer fans in general? This is your boy Musa with more football with another episode. And now I have we'll say, a colleague and a contributor as well of Goals TV and a MLS fan and soccer fans just in general. So we have my good friend John, also Orlando City SC fan. So John, how are you doing, my friend?
Good, man. Yeah. Good. Get to hang out with you outside of Goals TV and the crew over there. So, always good to talk soccer.
Yes, yes. So, for those people that maybe not don't know much of your backstory, so you mentioned soccer, but I think you growing up, you've called it a different one. So, uh,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about who John is before MLS.
Oh, okay. Well, my football journey started many years ago because it's a football journey. I am both English and American. I kind of consider I have both nationalities. I'm just a man of two countries. I grew up in England. My team that I've always supported, my English team, is Stoke City. So my family, all my dad's side and my mom's side, and most of my family really comes from that part of the country, from the Midlands, and Stoke and Derby in that area. So my dad made me a Stoke fan as a child. There was no choice in my
Yep.
household. That was just you're a Stoke fan. And I grew up kind of going with him to games in the '90s. He was really lucky and able to invest in the club after some really good business he did here in the '90s in America.
Right.
And then he invested some money in the club and became a director along with a bunch of Icelandic owners at the time. And so I got to go into the boardroom after the games and the owner's box and suite and stuff. And I got to see a lot of stuff behind the scenes at a very young age that was really cool. And I think I really kind of fell in love with football, kind of after that, and sort of growing up as a teenager, have all the experience and time that he had around that, and me being able to watch us in big games and stuff, and go with him and be in these nice places and see all this stuff, as well as also being a fan because he was from working class background, so he was really just like a raw fan, but also had money, so was able to kind of open doors into those worlds. So I kind of saw it from both perspectives. And then later on, he moved to the U.S. Well, back to the U.S. and was in Austin and started a USL team in Austin,
Yeah, nice.
which didn't really go so well in Austin. I think there's some random people who are still bitter about that. I don't know why, because they have an MLS team now, but it didn't work in Austin for us. So they moved the USL franchise to Orlando, and then yeah, it just kind of took off, became an amazing thing here in Orlando. I mean, our first season in USL, we had like 10,000 or so, which was crazy at the time, and
Not
then
bad.
it was growing around each year. We had some games we had like 20,000 for a final, and then eventually it went MLS. So I worked there during those times as an intern, and then I became a person in the marketing department, and then I ended up running the merchandise department at Orlando City, and was there when they opened the stadium and started Orlando Pride, the NWSL team. So much to do with soccer there, and then I left. And now I do completely different other stuff, like you do, Mo, and create content,
Yeah.
which is very different, but still focused around soccer. So Orlando City is just kind of is my family's baby in many ways. Like we created the club. I'm very attached to it. Even though my parents sold the club many years ago, and then it got sold again. So it has
All right.
different owners, but the founders, you always kind of feel like it's part of kind of who we are as a family. And my dad has moved on and does other things now. My stepmom is still there at the club. She's an ambassador. She kind of is like the face of the club in the community. So I do a lot of other cool stuff around the podcast, and I have another job that pays the bills. But in the
Yep.
soccer world, like we all do,
These days, yes.
yeah, YouTube doesn't pay the bills, guys.
No.
Right now, I do Loud and Proud Orlando, which is the YouTube channel here covering Orlando City, Orlando Pride, with a good friend of mine, Luis, and another friend, Paula. That goes really well, so we're doing really, really good numbers on that. And then I also have another podcast called Forever a Lion, where I basically just interview people from the club
Right.
that were there like in the old days or like just recently, whether that's players or managers or ex staff members or whoever, and just kind of get like this Mo, get their perspective on Orlando City and what it means to them and kind of their story and what they were like when they worked there and how much they love the club, etc.
So when you're saying you're like soccer, you're eat, breathe soccer, like where I think you're probably the first one I've heard. I think that since a club from the infancy,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
almost pre-infancy to
yeah,
become what
yeah,
it is now. So I think I can definitely see your fandom. It's probably even more than the
yeah.
average. We'll see.
I mean,
Even
for
that hard
for
player.
Orlando City and
Yeah,
Orlando Pride, for sure. Like,
right.
it's not, how many people's parents found a soccer club, and then you're like,
There's not
you're
not
pretty
many.
much, for me, it's like I'll be Orlando. Whatever happens, even if I don't live in Orlando in the future for some reason, I will still watch every game. I'll still be there, online commenting, whatever, because it's just that's how it is. I mean, I feel very similar about Stoke as well. I'm
Right.
I'm that kind of fan where I like a team and that's it. And I like the team and the club and I'm club over players always.
Yep.
And so players come and go, but you live and die by the club. And having been a fan of Stoke and Orlando City and Orlando Pride, who was, by the way, Orlando Pride is the team that's won the most recently or ever in my lifetime out of those teams. They won the Shield and the Cup last year in the women's soccer. So that was unprecedented for me. Most of the time I spend watching my teams really be pretty mediocre. I mean, we had some great years with Stoke in the Premier League, and that was amazing. But since then, it's been very, very mediocre in the championship, and we're like kind of hopeful that maybe this season will be better. Orlando City, we had the great success in USL. Has not really happened in MLS for us, but we did win the Open Cup in 2022. That was massive, and I was like, that was a huge day. But my time at the club was amazing, and I feel like I know a lot of the different perspectives. Right, I
Right.
think a lot of fans, like rightly so, they only see the fan side of it, and in some ways that's good because you don't really want to know how the sausage is made. Like you don't,
No.
in
No.
some ways you don't really want to know. Like I've worked at it. It's not always pretty. It's not always planned like you would hope it is, and it's not always smooth like you'd hope it is. But most of the people working in the front offices, like they love the club too. They want all the things that you want. So I think sometimes when the fans say, "Oh, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do this, they don't want to spend money," it's like, well, you're imagining stuff you don't maybe know about. And when you have more context from different perspectives, you can kind of understand more the different viewpoints on why things happen or, why players are sold or why they did certain things in marketing or certain things with seats or tickets or and you have to understand that at the end of the day, soccer, football, it's a business, Mo. So it's
A very
it's
lucrative one.
gotta, yeah, like and that's the same with players too. Like I've seen that side, and you get to know the players,
Yep.
and then the players get sold, and you're like, like I mean, I was working at the club when players would get sold, and it's like, well, my parents are the owners, but I would know the players would like go hang out and stuff, and it's like, oh, we're not gonna renew your contracts. Like, how do you? So it's like, oh, okay. And the professional ones, they understand that, and it's football is football, and it's a business. And the fans sometimes, they don't always get that players have their own interests, owners have their own interests.
And then some.
It's not always going to be the perfect run club just for the fans, which as much as I want it to be that way. And I think at MLS is very interesting for me because when I first came here from England, like just MLS makes no sense. Like,
Yep.
the
Oh,
European mindset when you come, it's like, what is this? What are we doing here? I don't understand why there's no pro rel, like why this whole thing is all owned by one big entity, and etc. Why are there playoffs? So when I first came, I didn't really understand any of that, and it kind of drove me crazy. And I was like, what is this? I wanted it all to be like not like this. But in some ways, you kind of just accept that that's the way American sports are, and you kind of adapt and learn that it's a different culture. It might speak the same language as England, but the cultures are completely different.
I think you've almost touched every single points that I think I have
I'm
had.
sorry, I just went off on it and
Oh
just
no,
feel like
and I
no
think you almost
question.
hit like every
That's my
points that
whole story.
I think you almost hit like every single points that I've had, especially with San Luis City SC, the new
Mm,
team, where I think everything you just mentioned from, I guess the players being sold, how much money they're willing to spend and or cannot spend, or they're not willing to, the seats, the marketing, all of these things are coming up now because of maybe not knowing what a new club has to endure to become, Orlando SC or Nashville or others, where there's that there's the crazy things that happens behind closed door that not
yeah,
many people are aware of. So I think it's good to know that, there are people that have seen the front, the back, and also the end product, which I think maybe sometimes kind of help us mitigate some of the frustration maybe that we
yeah.
have with our
I
clubs.
mean, I think that's what I try to be in some way. It's very difficult in lots
Yeah.
of ways because I'm sure there's some fans that go, "Oh, I'm not going to listen to him." In fact, I know there's people who think that I'm just a mouthpiece for the club, right? And I'm like, I'm not
Uh-huh.
paid by the club. I'm not any of these things. My parents don't own the club anymore. I'm just here trying to, make good content about the team I love and talk about the team I love with the fans that also love the team, just like everybody else. So, and I think most people see that. But yeah, it's perspectives, right? It's people always feel that you other people have an agenda one way or the other, especially online. And I think when you start a new football club, for me, a lot of things I'm looking for with a new MLS franchise is what are the like what is the community there? Have they
Yeah.
embraced it? Do they like it? What is the game day feel? Does it feel like so Americanized in the sense where you're just here for like a tailgate vibe and everybody's just chilling and they're not really caring about the football at all? Or
Right.
is there like actually a supporter section and do they wave flags and do they have tifos and do they actually look engaged and does the crowd get engaged? Can you hear the crowd on the feed? All of that stuff. And when you watch St. Louis, like you can see like that you guys have great crowds. It's
Yeah.
all the pieces are there. Great crowds for MLS. So you know what I mean. Like there's a lot of good pieces there for the community that cares about the team. You just need to figure out how to make the team good. But the other thing in MLS is like I talked about. It's such a challenge and something that makes no sense from Europe is you can't just go out and make your mega team unless
Yep.
you're Miami. So you can't just go out and buy it. So a lot of people are like, why do we have this guy? Why don't we play this guy? Why do we suck so bad in this department, etc.? Why can't we just get rid of this guy? They don't really realize how the contracts work and like how the allocation works and all that stuff. And there's so many nuances to this league that make it much more difficult for your club to just dominate and go out. It doesn't matter if you spend a bunch of money; you can't just instantly be good
Yeah.
in
Oh,
MLS.
trust me, I'm still on that. Even though I do contact for MLS, I still don't understand half of the stuff that's happening. So, um, but I guess it's part of almost the American sport where they kind of have to mirror other American sports, so that kind
Yeah,
of makes sort of sense to
it's a lot to do
the
with the fact
average.
that it's owned and run by a lot of NFL
Yeah.
owners,
Yes.
and they implemented a lot of those systems in, and that's okay. But you see how USL is a lot simpler, and it's a lot easier, and you can see a lot of the teams that want to just come and play and be in a league and not have to
Right.
spend a crazy amount of money. The USL is the option, but a lot of the players are going to be in MLS. So it's going to be interesting where the landscape goes, and that's something I'm constantly, having come from England, being in part of it, not really understanding it, then accepting it. Now I'm just studying it all the time. I'm like, what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years with the landscape of these leagues in this country, with the level of the national team, etc. How could you make football or soccer in America actually grow? Because there's always been a lot of talk of that, but I think it's very stagnant and very slow growth of the sport in this country compared to what the talk of, after the 94 World Cup, and it was going to explode and accelerate in this country. And I feel like it hasn't. It's very far away from taking over any of the top sports, I think.
That's it. Maybe I think maybe NFL. Maybe I think
I
if
mean,
you start,
yeah, like we're closer to like the best, like the baseballs and your
yeah, MLB.
your
Yeah,
NHL and maybe basketball, but even though
yeah,
there's big dominant sports in this country, and like college football and football alone in the NFL are just so huge
yeah.
that you can there's space, but I think the growth isn't as fast as I would have hoped it was when I first came here to this country, seeing what was happening. Because
Absolutely.
it's still going the right direction.
So yeah, so it looks like so. Especially that you've seen the in and out of USL and MLS build
Mm,
out. And then coming from England, so you kind of started with the league, we'll say lower league.
yeah,
I'm seeing what how the experience of having 10,000 USL
yeah,
fans, and then you're going up to maybe we'll say in the 20s to 25,000.
yeah.
Um,
On a very good
get
day,
or if Messi's in town, maybe that's when you get
he's never
those.
comes to town, but yeah.
So so that progression, how do you see that difference between the 10,000 versus the 22,000 MLS fans? Because just us hearing it as maybe European or African is like that's not a big jump
Mm,
from 10 to 20. That's just them closing a part of the stadium to make it look more cozy.
yeah. No, I mean we were in the old Citrus Bowl before, and like, we didn't even have our stadium,
Right.
so that really felt like it was very lower league because it was on a football field and it was old. It's
The
an old
lines and all
football
that.
stadium, and yeah, I mean, I remember working there. It just was weird to me because I was like, why are all these walls around the stadium so high? And everyone's like, the football stadium. I was like, what is the purpose of this? And just lots of things I didn't understand as an English guy in America. Like I'd been here, but I didn't really worked here in that depth to that point. And there, really in the USL era, I think the way they run the league is very European.
Mhm.
But yeah, a lot of the venues that they're playing in are just high school stadiums, and that kind of thing, which is better now, but was really bad at that time. So you just kind of watched a lot of games with football lines on the field and a lot of like obscure stadiums, with not a lot of people watching on very bad streams in order to be able to follow the team. But we had that great following of it was about in the highs of a game we'd have 10,000. Well, we have about 5 to 10,000 loyal people coming out for a USA game, a
Which is not
USL
bad.
game, and we just won like all the time. It's still one of the best records. They won like a shield or a cup every year for 4 years. It was a
Nice.
cup and then a shield and a cup and then a shield. So, and some great finals in there. Just hold a lot of records in USL from that time. And then we really built a lot of hype from that. And I was part of the marketing team that spent a lot of effort here in the city of Orlando to really, push for the MLS and everything that happened, and Kaká coming and
Yes.
announcing him and all of the epic things we did around that. It was amazing. We had like 67,000 people, no, sorry, 65,000 people in the Citrus Bowl for the opening game of MLS, because we played there for a year or so before we then moved into our own stadium, which we did actually expand on the size of it that we were planning. So we had to make it bigger because there was so much demand before we opened it in 2017. And now it's really, I'd say we're a very typical sort of MLS. For our market size, I think we do pretty well for
Okay.
what we get out there, and the fans that we do get are very knowledgeable and intelligent and passionate, and a good mix. Like Orlando's such a melting pot of all the different countries, and we always really embrace that. And I think the club has changed a lot from the early days of USL, but that's just kind of growing pains. That's what's happened. I think if you ask the people of Wrexham what it was like 4 seasons ago, they might be like, "Hey, it was terrible, but like we could go to the games and it was quiet and cozy." And now, we're a much bigger team and it looks different, and the stadium's getting bigger, and they'll be grateful for all that growth, but it won't be like it was when it was a smaller club that felt a bit more cozy and family feel. So I think that's the difference, and I think some fans really always want it to be like that sort of lower league vibe, and
Right.
that's nice, but really you gotta aspire to be in the Champions Cup and one of the best teams in your region. And America is really not that competitive, and in our time we've been in the Champions Cup a few years. So if in the space of, well, I mean, when the club didn't exist 15 years ago. It's about that, yeah. So it was 2011. So in that time, we've won championships and one league, and then won a U.S. Open Cup, and hopefully win an MLS Cup one day as well. So
Yeah.
it's
You
just
got
about achieving as much as you can and growing. But yeah, it was fun in those early days. Starting a team is really really cool for
uh,
sure.
yeah, and there's maybe the US is might be the only place where you could probably say I'm going to
Yeah,
start a professional team from
yeah.
scratch.
No, I mean
Um,
minor league football in England is like also I love. Like my team back home is a team called Chippenham Town. They're playing like the seventh tier,
okay. Yeah.
and they're like just really bad. And like I'll go, they play another team called Bath, which is like a really nice historical Roman town.
Mhm.
These two places are about 20-30 minute drive apart. And they play the A4 Derby every year,
Yeah.
which is just this tiny little competition between these two teams. So that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy over there. But it's very different and it's historical. I mean, I'm sure like in France, you've got these tiny little villages with a football team that everybody
Yep.
will go to. All the farmers for leagues around will go to that one team to go support them. So it's very different and historical. But whereas here in America, it's so organic and new and fresh and grassroots, and there's so many sporting options here. I think
True.
when it's really minor league and people go, those people like really care because they're I think if you look at something like Portland Hearts of Pine, or you look at any of these other minor league clubs that get really great attendances, and the game day just looks like a lot of fun. That's sort of what Orlando City
Yeah.
was like back then. Sometimes you get the right market with these USL teams, and they're just starved for a team, and they're a lot of people that like soccer or have heard of soccer and are interested, and they all go, and it just works.
Yeah, and I think from what I've seen, especially coming from where I've come from, I think even the US has that angerness to see soccer and watch or support their team, and I think that culture is there somewhat.
Yeah,
It's just don't have the club yet to support it,
yeah.
and then
I
after that,
think
just to run with it. I think it's just that initial investment that
in the big market, it's kind of the rule of anything though. Like in the big markets, you got to be exciting, you got to be interesting, or
right.
you can't be in LA and not be a big winning club. Like you can't be like Chicago for all these years have struggled because like look at Chicago and all the other sports. You're not
They're
who's
winning.
going to a fire game when you're in Chicago. You got so many other options. Like no offense to John, but it's just
Hey,
the situation, right? So if Chicago Fire got to step up their game, they got to bring in more impressive names to be able to attract the people of that city because there's so much going on there. Like Orlando is always, going to have the options of you can do anything here. Soccer is just one thing, but we don't really have all the other sporting teams to compete with. And I think in those, especially those smaller towns where there aren't even any major leagues, sports around, that's where it can really kind of take hold because it's
Right.
about that
That community.
grassroots
Yeah.
community. And that's really, I was talking with Andrew from Designated Players the other day, and he was talking about the fact that there's really no close MLS team to where he lives, and so that kind of like allows kids to like have more of a wider view of soccer, and they can like kind of pick and choose, and they might like then and in that kind of scenario, that kind of town is like, well, if you put a USL team there, then they would instantly gravitate to that because that's the one in a vacuum. And there's so many places like that across this nation that, yeah, there's an MLS or a USL club somewhere near, but they're probably not near enough. And if you put something in that town that speaks to that community, they're going to come. And once America gets to that point, I mean, it'll be amazing if you have like 90 teams in the southeast of the US and you can have a sort of English style tier system just in one region of the country. And there's so many possibilities once this country gets full of soccer teams. I
And
don't
it's
know if it's ever
feasible.
going to happen in my lifetime or your lifetime. It might be like 200, 300 years from now, but every new USL team is a step in that direction.
Absolutely. So yes, so you've been in both sides. So the professional side, how to see the club, but now you're more of the independent social media. So what is one of like the proudest moment that you've had that's like, wow, this is what I'm doing.
I mean, I think probably the we did a World Cup watch party in 2014 down on Wall Street in downtown Orlando, which is like this kind of closed off street with all these bars.
Right.
And I did a lot of big events with them over the years, but that one was the biggest one, and we had like about like 9,000 people out there for the USA Ghana game. It was the Ghana game, I think it was in the quarterfinal, I believe. And then at halftime of that, we arranged to bring Kaká onto
Ooh,
stage and
yes.
like announce him to everybody. And just that whole day was like a blur. Like I remember like going through the streets, like leading Kaká and like these giant bodyguards and police like throw these people and just stuff like that. That was you're working it and like you're enjoying it, but you don't really get to really enjoy it until later, and you're like, wow, that was amazing that we did that. And then the opening game, like I said, the 65,000 people
Right.
in the stadium. I mean, I also just really enjoyed those USL days, some of the finals, and just again that kind of core family sort of grassroots smaller soccer market vibe that we used to have was a lot of fun. I think just being a part of building something and then watching, you do all the hard work in the week and then watching the goals go in and the fans
Yeah.
get exciting and score. We used to do a lot of really cool marketing stuff back in the day. And I think that was what I was most proud of is like was part of a team and we were very creative and we did a lot of stuff on social media and a lot of kind of stuff in sort of guerrilla marketing and in market stuff that would just sort of make us splash and kind of make us known. And I think a lot of that is why it was successful here because we did so much of that that people knew what we were. And I think that's what makes it. That's what any market. You can't just turn up, put a bunch of Facebook social ads out and expect
Yep.
people to, know what you are. You actually have to engage in your community. You actually have to be, part of the community, and you have to connect, and you have to get fans out and make those memories and entertain them. I mean, scoring goals and being an entertaining team is what you also need to do. I think that's a big part of why we were successful. Is 4 years of just dominating a league was made it a lot of fun, and people wanted to come out.
There's not many people that can say, I walked Kaka to his introduction, his first game. So yeah, I think you kind of
It
people
was
will have to
it
step
was
up their
pretty
game
cool.
now
Yeah.
on those memories. And probably also one of the nicest soccer player I think ever.
Oh yeah, he was really cool. He was really down to earth and humble, and I mean, it was crazy because you just going from USL, not to like diss on Dom Dwyer, but like he was like one of our most famous players
Right.
before Kaká, walk through the building. It was that level just went, okay, we're no longer down here. Now the world knows who we are, and we're Orlando City, and we've just signed Kiko.
There's no players that will feel bad about what you just said. It's like Kaká, he's in a different galaxy
Yeah.
almost to that
And
point.
I
So
think that was hard
yes,
because the watching the players, I think that I really loved and adored from USL,
right.
not get a chance. Like there were some guys there that I think a lot of guys that we should have just kept and rolled into and given a chance in MLS. I think too often they just want to build a team or not look at the USL. But I think a lot of players can make the jump from USL to MLS. They don't get given that opportunity because the leagues don't really want to. I genuinely think MLS don't want to play. They don't want to buy players from USL.
Yeah, and I think I'm
Sad.
starting to see a few of them kind of
A
making
little
that.
bit,
Um,
but I think that the issue here is like in other nations, it's like you have the governing body that
yep.
controls it. So
Mhm.
as good as MLS is doing, and as good as USL is doing, they're adding against each other in so many ways, and they're not really helping to grow the sport together. They're just kind of doing their own thing, and that kind of holds the country back in the
Yeah,
growth
it's
in many ways.
they have to make sure that it's more of
Yeah.
their business
I
and make
mean,
sure
the
that they're
they would never allow this insanity to go on with. Well, we got two D1 leagues and both women's and men's. I don't know.
uh,
It makes no sense.
it's gonna be interesting after the World Cup. That's to say the least.
Yeah, right. And I think the schedule change is something that MLS looks like it's definitely going to happen. USL, I think, will do it when they go to Pro Rel as well. So I think that will be massive. And I've said that many times. Doesn't matter. You could, Messi is great for selling jerseys, but he's not gonna do what that will do for the league. That will accelerate the league in another way because players just genuinely they don't want to. It's just weird to them. They don't want to leave their club in the middle of the
After 6 months, yeah,
season. It just doesn't really work. And I think aligning with the world schedule will allow us to become more serious in the eyes of the world and push to become more than like a top 10 league in the world and really be like, okay, how can we spend more money? There's so much money here. That's the thing.
yeah, that's yes, yeah,
Facilities wise, MLS is amazing. It's incredible. You just need to spend some of that money on players and you'd really cause some issues. Like, we don't want to be Saudi Arabia. We don't want to be that. But, we definitely need to be spending more than just three players in the squad who are on, real money, is what we'd say in world football.
and maybe sprinkled out a little bit on defensive players so you
Yeah, I
can
mean
kind of
that's the
make
one
it.
that kills me, Mo. It's like that's what
Yes.
kills me. It's like you can't have good center backs in this league because nobody wants to pay. For the last DP center back. I mean, there's a few. There's like Cincinnati, I think, has got some good center backs at DPS, but there's not many in the league, and I think there's a lot of goals, but I think tactics overall aren't able to be implemented by like the secondary squads of many teams. Like the first
Generally,
11 of most teams is like, yeah, we could play the ball we need to play. But when you get into those deeper players in the roster, the quality really, really drops.
big time. Yes, I think City we Foul Foul was the last one that was like almost a what 3.5
Yeah.
million, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, did you spend that much on the defenders?" Like, well, you have to defend too, so
Yeah.
both ends. So yes, so that's pretty much what we've just learned of who John is as of like your soccer story and others. So and then jumping up to more of our alley when it comes to content creation and just yes having a voice for our team individually outside of MLS and their new AI things that they're doing these days. So, could you tell us a little bit more about what kind of motivated you to start that podcast, and also, you know, is it only Orlando um, teams, or you're dabbing in Stoke and others?
No, I don't know. A few years ago, like I said, for years I wasn't able to really talk about Orlando City or
Yeah, because
anything
you were
because
tied.
I
Yep.
worked there, and then when I left, My parents still, were owners or worked there, and just was not a thing.
Yes.
And then after the club got sold, and many years, they didn't have any stake in the club anymore. And I really felt like, okay, maybe I can have a voice, and be somebody. And I was really just wanted to talk to people about the club and soccer, and like I was having conversations with people on social media. And for a long time I just thought like, oh, maybe I'll start a podcast. But I called up, well, I messaged an old friend of mine, Luis, who did have a podcast called Loud and Proud Orlando. And he was like, yeah, come on for an episode. And then that was it. And then 3 years later, here we are. Me and Luis are the sort of main hosts of the podcast, and Paula comes on every once in a while. But it just kind of came from that. And I think, I don't know about you, Mo, but as a soccer fan, I spend too much time walking around thinking about my team and how it could be better and what we could do. And so, like, I'm always somebody that has to be kind of somewhat creative in my life, and
Mhm.
I love having different like things happening in my actual day to day. Since I left Orlando City, I've been working in the theatrical arts,
Yeah.
so I've always been a big sort of film and theater guy. That's what my degree is in. That's what I went to university in, as well. So like I left soccer, went to go do that because I wanted to achieve in that. And so in my day to day, I'm like a scenic carpenter.
Okay.
And then because I was like, hey, I need to talk about football still, I started the podcast. So I do that. And then recently, like I said, I started Forever a Lion, which is one I just do on my own, which is kind of more really not so much covering the team. It's more about covering, just like this, people's personal stories. And I asked them about, their journey with Orlando City and what it means to them, etc.
So yes, and that's pretty much exactly that part too. And I went to the IT route after my soccer playing days, and then after that, St. Louis kind of triggered something back where I think I started Twitter first, and then I started creating GIFs, and then I think starting to spend way too much time talking about it. And then a few people were like, "So why don't you just record it?" And then one thing led to the other. And now you and I, and then Jose, and all of these things just
Here we
built
are.
a huge community of people that I could talk to. And I mean, outside of MLS, we probably would have not brought us together and to go and talk with Goals TV if it wasn't for soccer itself. So it keeps us out of trouble. I think that's what I always say.
Right? Yeah, that's
Because
what we need.
we could be addicted to anything else.
We need
So
like
soccer is not bad.
a creators cup, where
Yeah.
we like play each other, and not actual soccer because we'll
Uh,
probably all be
oh,
terrible.
dang.
But
I was.
no, Mo, that's cheating. You win then. No, I don't know. It'd be fun. It'd be cool. We gotta do some more stuff. I love meeting everybody from the different clubs. I think it's a lot. It's interesting because it's sort of like you're in your little micro environment of
Yeah.
you doing everything for your fans in your social media bubble of your club, but there's a whole other one of those for every 30 teams here. And then there's ones that are just talking about the league in general. There's guys talk about, just talking about US soccer. There's so many different, spheres of the US soccer social media landscape. And yeah, sometimes I wish they would all just kind of be nicer to each other and talk to each other more.
Yeah.
So I always enjoy it when there's a bit more of this kind of stuff happening, where let's all just get along and talk some soccer.
Yeah, and I think a few banter here and there. I think is the
Yeah,
fun
that's
part.
fine.
But I think a lot of the content creator themselves, I think, are more settled in like kind of have that community like space. I think it's maybe those that have maybe a little bit of noise in between. But I think fortunately I've not
No,
seen
everyone I
as
meet
much.
generally is really nice,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah,
So I guess we're spoiled. We'll
yeah.
say
I
on
think
that part.
face to face, everyone wants to be, you know,
Mm.
right? It's I think it's more like the fans I see. It's just like we all, it's like I was talking about the divide between USL and MLS, and there's a
Mhm.
divide between the the pro rel people and the no pro, and I'm like, I get you all got like a point of view, but that doesn't have to define who you are. We're all soccer fans. We might disagree on how best to do it, but I think we all want our team, whether you're a USL or an MLS or NWSL or whatever you support. If you support a club here in US, I just think that's awesome, and I think that that's what we need to support in general. Is just whoever it is. If you go to a game and it's your local team, then that's awesome. Even
That's
if
all
it's
you
not
need.
your local team and you just watch a team that's on the other side of the country every week, that's great. I think just supporting any kind of soccer team in this country should be encouraged, and I don't think there should be any kind of like gatekeeping and negativity around new fans.
No, because I think we all at once was new fans,
Yeah,
even
exactly.
if we were born maybe into it, but
Yeah,
you still had to grow up and like or prefer a team. Because I'm a born and raised PSG fans, but
yeah.
I do
I mean,
know
that's hard.
eternally.
That's just like ew. Like, I mean, come on.
What? Okay, not now. I
Ah,
cannot skip to the next question
I knew you would
topic
be. I
because
mean,
you
you're like, come on.
like
What's the
like
chances he's from France? He's
so
probably a
why?
PSG fan.
Because I like to ask that question. I think for
Well,
some
I'm just
people.
kidding you, but honestly, I've just always been like, hey, I support the underdog teams, you
Okay.
know. So like, I joke with Jose that like I don't watch Champions like League European football because I'm like I don't want to watch this powerhouse
PSG were
go at
underdogs for a
it,
long
you know.
time.
I think it is great. I mean, there's a lot of big teams. I just for me in England, it's like oh, you support Menu, like I roll right. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the PSG. France is
Oh,
like oh, he's a PSG fan. So that's my instant response. But hey, I'm jealous. I mean, you guys got a great team.
I think
It's
it's just I think it's just when PSG became
ah,
the global sport, but we were always underdog, right? The Champions League that was our first one ever. We were like the laughing stack of France because Marseille is our biggest rival on the west of France.
mm.
Yes, and the biggest banter they've had for the past 20 plus years is that you may have won all these trophies, but the Champions League is the one you don't have. So and now we have it, so it's more equal.
Now
So
you're just like oh, we got it all. So
yeah, so I think that's why I like to ask people when they hear
yeah.
PSG. I think the first one is the recent time of
Mm.
spending money, but I'm like, we
Is it
see.
is it always been PSG or you have other teams?
Well, PSG is like born and raised because I'm
Mm.
literally I was Parc des Princes
Yeah,
was
right
10
there.
minutes from where I grew up,
Yeah.
so I watched that.
See that's like acceptable terms to be a PSG fan.
Yes,
I'm
oh
also
yes,
just joking because
oh yeah,
I
oh
you
yeah.
just hear France, oh you're a PSG fan.
That in the
Um,
past few years, yes. So
yes, but also it's because you guys dominate so
yeah,
much. So it's like of course you just scoop up all the fans.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's must be interesting now with St. Louis, right? Not so winning. Is that a
No,
different perspective? Like, is that the
so
first time you've supported a team that has not been doing really well at the top of the table?
I think I've always so my funny story is that I'm a PSG fan because born and raised, but my adopted team is Chelsea. But then that's where people are like, "Oh, you just probably came within the Abramovich era." I'm
Yeah.
like, technically no, because I follow Claude Makélélé, that
Oh
that
yeah.
plays. So, and he's
Makelele.
from our part of the
Legend.
city as well,
Yeah, yeah.
and we saw him. Um, and also, I was part briefly at the PSG Academy as well. So
Mm.
he was a figure that we saw often and help coach sometimes. So during practices, so he's kind of the guy that we followed. So once we won the World Cup, and then he had his thing in pretty much Chelsea, and he was like defined the whole CDM position. Pretty much that's his
Yeah, he's
name. So that's how
amazing.
I became a Chelsea fan, and then
Yeah.
I didn't
That was
never
a great
moved from there.
team. Hey
So
man,
yeah,
that was a baller Chelsea team.
and yeah, so I
Yeah.
got lucky on those part. But Chelsea was pretty bad for quite a long time. So and then City was almost like the when Chelsea was doing bad, if you remember, that was
Mm.
the time where City came
Yeah.
up for the first season. So I sort of had like the up and down, and City kind of helped mitigate my craziness of a soccer fan. But now Chelsea is back up, and then City is down there. So it's just, I tell people soccer is a sport that is not made for a weak heart
Oh
because
yeah,
all season is not different. Your season can, you could win the Champions League that year and then not make it the other, and there's not much you can do.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of pain and suffering with
Yeah,
some good times sprinkled in. Basically, that's what it is. You know, you sign up to love your team no matter what, and hopefully you see some exciting goals every week. But sometimes it's going to be boring. Sometimes it's going to be frustrating. Sometimes you're going to be leave the stadium mad. Like
yeah.
last night, I left the stadium Orlando City very frustrated, having watched them, throw it away with Thomas Mueller's last minute winner against Vancouver. So,
Here he goes again.
it can happen, right? But you go, Thomas Mueller, and shrug your shoulders. But yeah, it is what it is. It's being part of loving a team is the highs and the lows. And I would say, like, I'm not a pro rail homer or
Mhm.
anything, but having lived it, I am. I would say it's probably the most exhilarating and most emotional thing that you can go through. I think as football fans, we kind of get tied in with our emotions in a
Right.
good and a bad way. And when it goes well, like really excited, and that's the most exciting thing you can feel for
Yep.
me is watching your team get promoted. Like when Stoke got promoted to Premier League, probably one of the most amazing days of my life. And then when we got relegated,
The lowest.
epic depression. Like it was so sad. So I think that's something that here in America that I think there's a lot of fear about the financials
Yep.
of pro rel, which I get, but I also don't know why people are so worried about the financials of things they don't have to pay for.
Yeah,
But I
sure.
would say to them that they're missing out, I think, on what really makes it truly exciting is watching your team kind of rise and fall within a system like that.
Yeah,
And they're
and
seeing it. They're seeing it with like Wrexham, and that's why people are so
yeah,
invested in that story. It's like, yeah, it's Ryan Reynolds and all that, but really they're like understanding finally what it means to be promoted and in a system that is based on just essentially fair play. You can pay your way through it, yes, but it's supposed to be a fair playground.
I'm still surprised by, I guess, people saying that maybe the owners are afraid of losing money, because I would think that
Yeah, I mean
if
they're
you're a
losing
business
money now.
person, right, it pretty much part of the challenge of,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
up and down. You never
yeah.
know what's going to
I
happen. So,
I think also people like are misconceptions about how much money they think teams make. Like MLS teams do not make money. They
I'm
don't.
sure they're probably close
Like
to
there's
breaking
some
even.
like yeah, like there's some that they can take out, but they then invest that in more facilities, right? Or they might make money and put it back in. A lot of MLS teams don't make positive money. USL teams definitely not. It's very expensive to pay your athletes, especially in
Yeah.
world football. If you think about, and that's the thing, like the in like the championship, for example, how much they're having to pay their players, and some of these clubs are only getting like 10 or 15,000 actual fans out to a game. They don't have like a massive global following of
Yep.
fans, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the reason why a team like Wrexham is doing so well because they're generating money in other ways to then be able to spend more money because that's just how it works in the UK. Here, you're just kind of hampered by the rules of MLS. And if you're a USL club, sure, you could spend a bunch of money on players, and have a massive crowd, I guess, if you're in the right community. But no one's going to do that. So yeah, a lot of them just lose money all the time.
Yeah, and like we found out that even if you sell a player to Europe for 30 million, that doesn't mean that you have 30 billion in the bank to spend. The MLS is gonna be like, hey, well, maybe you only got 10% of that
Yeah,
to
well,
spend for
yeah,
the next 5 years.
exactly. Yeah, it
So
doesn't work that way. Mm-mm.
so yeah, so it's rough out there. I won't say I feel bad for them because that's what they got themselves into, but
No,
it is not a
And a lot of them,
it's
it's like a
not an easy
side
business.
business. You know,
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like something they want to do with their money because they want to, give back to the community or do something that they enjoy. Really,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, it's a lot of them that's their secondary thing.
yeah. And I think maybe that's where some people maybe may misconstrue some of those where and I think the time of where it was just one billionaire owner or a family that owned the team, where I guess the complete passion drove them to.
Yeah,
It's a little bit different now than where it's a hedge fund or a handful of people that put their money together to run a club,
yeah. I
which
think
makes it hard.
different kind of ownerships are very interesting, and how fans react and how they, I think fans are quick to turn on owners who are very good to teams often, and then, but also you have other scenarios where you have owners that are so bad that fans, they have to rebel and do something as well.
Oh,
It can
we've
be
seen quite
it
a
can
few
be
of those.
abusive. It can.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
stay away from those
Yeah, I think a
discussions.
good communication is key. I think that's what I would say about, if your ownership is honest and open and talks to their fans and tells them what's happening even when they make mistakes, that's better than saying nothing and sort of just taking their money and then not saying what you're actually doing right or wrong.
Let them imagine what they think, which
Yeah,
probably the
exactly.
worst
That's
thing.
the right, because the message boards are full of
Mm,
imaginary ideas, not
yes.
actual, opinions of the owners.
Oh yes. So we'll be kind to those guys because they still without their money will still won't be able to talk about those.
Yeah,
So I think it's
right.
um a give and take relationship. So and I think where we coming to now the Orlando, so just the MLS in general. Um so how if there's an English guy, there's a French guy. So if someone from outside of the US will ask you, what is one thing that you will promote to MLS newbies? What would be some of those things?
Like, how would I advertise MLS to
Yes.
people? I would say that, like, the quality is a lot better than you think it is. I think
Okay.
that's one thing. I think a lot of people think it's a retirement league, and it is in some ways. But there's also a lot
Some
of good
places.
young players and a lot of good players in the middle of the range that fill out the league that can play really good football as well. And I think it's just really about, like I said before, about going supporting your local club. Think that's for me what football is about. It's the community, and caring about what your team is doing. So if you get connected to that, then you're going to feel it. You just got to go to a game. I always tell people that take someone to a game. If they really don't enjoy it, then they don't come back. But most of the time, they're probably not going to see a 0-0. They're probably going to see some goals, whether it's for a team or not.
Right.
But if they go and they watch like a great game and you win, and there's excitement, and they're going to go, whoa, this is cool. I like this. I think that's what makes it different from other sports. So if they're not a soccer fan, then definitely that's what I would say. And if they are a soccer fan, I really just tell them to stop being such a snob and get over themselves and just come watch football. Like, it's soccer, it's the same. I don't, like I said, I'm an advocate for all levels of the game. So it's not about the level of the game; it's about your enjoyment of watching your team. And every level of the game has moments of excitement and joy.
You're speaking my language. You're speaking
Yeah.
my language. So I think so. Now, before we jump to the quick fire questions, so um, I guess the one of the big question is you're now English and Americans, and the World Cup is coming.
Yeah.
So how is the balance going? Is it
Like, who am I rooting for? Is
yes?
that
Is it an equal balance
um,
or like
it's
who will
very
make you the
not.
saddest if
It's
they
very
win?
unequal. I am dying for England to win something. Please, 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 please.
Okay, yeah.
Please, we're so close, and like, it's so depressing. I tell you, every time we get in a competition mode, we've been getting to the semifinals or like even the final, and we lose. I just want to watch my team that invented the sport, by the way,
Mm.
lift the trophy. Don't give me this shrug. I'll get you some. I'll show you.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah, I will give
Stoke,
you that.
1863 was Stoke, second oldest club in the world. So there you go. Very, very, historic. nation, England, and I just want as much as I know people like, oh, the Three Lions. Ugh, I'm sure you're like that, Mo, being French. But
Uh,
watching, the success, like there's been these iterations of nations in Europe doing really well. We had it with the Germans, and they went through their phase, and the Spanish, and then now the French, and I'm just like, please, can we
where's
just
my
have
turn?
our moment in the sunlight
Oh,
and
you still
win?
alive? Yeah.
I want to win the Euros. I want to win a World Cup while I'm still alive, please. So, yeah, I'm very much in the camp of England, but I love America too, and I will of course be rooting for them. I'm more realistic. I don't think America has any chance of winning the World Cup, whereas England actually has a very real chance of winning the World Cup.
I can take that. I just want to
Americans would be
apologize in
like,
advance
"Oh,
because
him now. He
yeah,
can't say this." But I'm a realist. It is what it is. Let's be honest. I just
yeah.
want
So
America to do
I
well.
just hope
Just do
that
well.
I hope England does not face France, so else I might have to apologize.
Yeah,
But
I think now that we've got not an English manager, and
uh,
Tuchel, see what happens. He's a good manager, man.
uh,
Like he
he's
maybe
my
the
guy. He
gloves will
got me the
come off,
Champions League, so
and what we need to do is just play like the French do. We need to play all out attacking football, and we were very reserved for many years under Gareth Southgate. So I'm hoping for aggressive England, with Jack Grealish on fire again. How
yeah.
about that?
Uh, And Tuchel was my guy, so yes.
Yeah, we'll
But
see.
you
I
know,
like what I've seen so far. I'm excited.
so I guess this is gonna be a good battle.
Yeah.
So first question. So we talked about the experience of not soccer and others. So what is your favorite food or go-to food when you go to a stadium? Doesn't matter if it's MLS or anything else. Like, what is that? I got to have it.
Oh my God. Well, here in the Orlando City Stadium,
Mhm.
they have this one place that has these most incredible chicken tenders you'll eat. Like they're not some stadium average tenders. These are like some of the best chicken tenders in town that weirdly are still sold there because of a bunch of weird reasons, even though the main place where they were sold got closed down, but
Okay.
they still make them in the stadium.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a thing. But yeah, I mean, for me, food is it's got to be handheld. Like traditionally in England, it's all about pies. So we just like a nice meat pie in the stadium. So that's kind of that's very Stoke. That's what I'd have there. But America is a different world. So I just like, but I like all the food. So often it's like an arepa because my wife's Venezuelan, so I eat a lot of
Really?
arepas.
Yes.
So really tacos, anything that's I can hold in my hand and watch the game and eat at the same time. Yeah, that's my vibe.
All right. So sounds like you need to come to St. Louis so we can show you what we have in town.
Okay, all right, I'm in.
But I guess we'll plan that later on. So if is there one soccer rule that if you could change, what would that be or introduce?
I think I would introduce the sin bin penalty box.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it as much as it's like people might be like that's crazy like hockey thing, but I kind of like it in a way that like I think that a lot of the times refs right now or like they won't give a yellow early
Hmm.
and then they just give it one yellow late enough in the game and then they kind of let players get away with stuff because they don't want to give another yellow, they don't want to go that far as to send him off. But I think if we kind of have like something in between, like an orange card, you get a yellow and then you get an orange, you get put in the sim bin for 10 minutes, and your team plays down for 10 minutes, and then if you do it again, like or something, that's it, or something in that realm. I would like to see because I feel like too often teams just get away with a lot of fouls and refs are afraid to give out cards because they're very good at judging the sort of like, oh, I can do just enough here and just enough there to not get sent off. So I would like the refs to have a little bit more power but not feel like they're going to impact the game so massively. And I think that could be a good interesting way to do it.
I like that one.
Yeah,
I'll
plus
be
you could like
interested.
scout, stuff at them while they're in the sin bin like they do in hockey, and that I think that's good. That's good entertainment.
I'm interesting how they send them. Hopefully, maybe it won't take
Yeah,
as much time. Maybe it's like you get that card, you run in the bin and back, but it won't stop the clock. Because I'm wondering. You know how
No.
people are starting to not want to stop the play as
Oh
much?
no, I'll be like, yeah, you just gotta go sit there for 10 minutes, and then it's just like you're stuck there, and they
Yeah,
play
no
down a
questions.
man for 10. Yeah, no, that's it. Like it's just, yeah, I think there's too much gray area. So I
Mm.
think you need to have, and also VAR is. We could go into that, but it's yeah,
Yeah, VR. You need the whole show for that one,
it was
I
good
guess.
and bad, but yeah.
Yes. So the last question. So we're getting into the MLS playoffs.
Mm.
So your prediction of who's going all the way?
Who's gonna win the whole thing?
Yes. Your biases aside,
Oh, this is
if you have to.
hard.
So here's I'm going to change it to a little bit to what
Yeah.
your heart says and
Mm.
what logic says.
Uh, I'm gonna go. I think Cincy win it. And I know, I just think that, like, I think that very difficult to beat. And I think with adding in, um, I'm forgetting his name now.
Thank you.
They've got Evander Denke
Uh,
and they brought back Brenner. That's who I couldn't think of. Brenner. I think the three of them sort of the triple threat, and I think they're like the most complete team in some ways. Weirdly, I just don't think San Diego or Philly will win it. There's something about Philly doing so well that it's just they've got to have one game where it goes wrong in the playoffs for me. I think could happen, and maybe Vancouver would be my other outside pick. Genuinely, I
yeah.
think they look really good, and Thomas Mueller just seems to have been a great addition that just works instantly. San Diego, I just think first time in the playoffs, and they've been slipping recently. I just think they're gonna slip some point in the playoffs. LAFC maybe Miami always a chance with Messi, but I think if you look at the teams that have the most complete team and the most aggressive attacking threats,
Right.
I think it's finally Cincy's time to just be like, and like every game will be like 1-0 or something. Like it's that kind of, you just can't score, and Denke or Vanda has that one moment, and they have enough quality to get it over
Man, do you know their fans will not stop?
the line.
Ah, oh man,
Yeah,
they're built
I mean,
different.
I think
They-
it's got to be someone from the East because the East has been so rough that I just think that it's like iron sharpens iron. So I just think once you get to the final, that Eastern team is probably going to win, whoever it is. That's why I'm reluctant to say Vancouver even. So Philly, Cincy, those would be my top. Maybe Charlotte, maybe if they can figure it out for enough games in a row because they are also very good. There's a lot of good teams.
if I had to
It's
pick, I
hard.
want my boys
Yeah,
that had to win something, but
yeah. Orlando City, sadly, just we're just slipping at the end like we like to do. So we'll
my team is
see.
not in the playoffs,
We'll
so
see. Maybe we'll go on a miracle run, but I
eh,
don't think so.
well, my team is out already, so we're getting
Yeah,
ready for
it could
vacation
be
after
worse, right? It
the
could be
last game.
worse.
So, but
We could be LA Galaxy 2025. It could be worse.
yeah, that one probably would be a different show. But the MLS has definitely screwed them over up and down,
Yeah.
sideways, and yeah,
Yeah, right. Only here in America could you
well,
go
you
from
punish someone for
top
doing
to
well.
bottom so quickly. Yeah.
Yes. But John, I definitely appreciate your time and sharing your story pretty much from Stoke City all the way to Orlando and all in between. So could you tell everybody how they can follow you and your two podcasts and, how they can make sure to show you support as well?
Yeah, you just you find me on social media as John Rollins. On Twitter, it's John Rollins OCSC, but everywhere else, like on Threads and Blue Sky and Instagram and Facebook, it's just John Rollins, as you see on the screen right now. And then I just really use that as my main social, and I post everything from Loud and Proud that gets posted there, and also my own podcast. and everything as well. So you kind of just follow me as a soccer fan and commentator and sort of pseudo pundit, as you were. I don't know
Uh,
what we call ourselves, like all these
I
people
know.
that cover teams. We're kind of like reporters, but we're not as
Nope.
well. We're like fans. It's like I think that whole landscape is changing, though, and it's very interesting to me. From the traditions of the press box of what it was, and to now what a lot of the people that cover the team and the way they do it is very different.
Dude, you have me in the press box, so that's a whole nother discussion as well.
Yeah,
But
exactly. That's what I'm talking about, right? Mhm.
yes, but I think that's the other alley where with MLS being so young, also there's the opportunity to make sure that it's not so many gatekeepers where you
Yeah,
have to have the title to be able to talk about it. And I think soccer, even globally, is one of the sports where you don't have to have that major outlet to be able to voice or support your team because you can see that there's people that actually have bigger following than your traditional um, media altogether.
yeah.
So
That was built for TV and radio and newspapers. They're just aren't covering. They're not. They don't care, sadly.
yep. And but with that, that's why we have Goals TV, where now you have MLS fans, journalists, and all in between to go and talk about everything. So just wanted to make sure you give a shout out to Jose and the team because
Yeah,
they allowed us to talk all our madness
yeah,
in that platform. So,
yeah.
but
And
we
I get to go on
yes,
some Stoke podcasts, and I go on all kinds of other MLS podcasts and stuff as well. So I really enjoy getting to talk soccer with guys like you, Mo.
yeah, and now I have Orlando off of my list, and I also have one Orlando kit over there.
Yeah,
Well,
you
I
got
have
to
to
come
figure out.
visit me next time you come to town.
Yes, next time we'll do no vacation is just the Orlando game, and we'll make sure we make that happen. But with that said, thank you all for joining Mo Football. Make sure you like, subscribe, and you know what? It's AFCON very soon in December, so you make sure you follow too because that is another exciting tournament to watch as you prepare yourself for the World Cup. So with that said, we'll see you soon.